Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the part-time Avenger, and with me is Mark, the resident Jedi.
Hello there. So we talked about the hype of what's coming, what's come, what's there, what's out there with the red and the yellow, the Wolverine, the Deadpool. One movie wasn't enough. There's so many other ones. We're going to bring you our thoughts on the Wolverine Deadpool world. We're going to rank and we're going to talk movies.
That's right. So we got 3 Wolverine movies, 3 Deadpool movies. Where will they rank on the list? Who knows? You will, because we're going to talk about it on this episode. Before we get started, Mark, is there anything that you were thinking about as you were trying to rank these movies? Were there any surprises? Were there any things that you were specifically trying to grade on in terms of criteria of your list?
It was just things that brought me joy. That's all I care about. And following the agreed upon criteria that while Wolverine has been in other movies, they don't count on this list. So none of that bullshit Fox X-Men stuff. This is all Wolverine, all Deadpool, all the time.
We're just going to go right into it. And so there's 6 movies that we're going to talk about. Mark, for your number 6, Deadpool 2.
Just not a big fan of the sequel here. While I do appreciate Deadpool as a franchise, and I enjoy Ryan Reynolds' sense of humor and all of the funny little riffs into there and the fact that Cable was in it. When you stacked it up to the rest of these movies and I looked at what brought me joy, this brought me the least amount of joy because it was too centered around his girlfriend. Yeah, this is the one that I like the least. And that's all I got to say about that.
My number 6 is I enjoyed this movie. I went to go see it in theaters. I was super stoked about it. And I'll be honest, it's better than X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is somewhere on this list. The reasoning as to why is the third act where it really shit the bed. I love the fact that Hugh Jackman is all ripped and going to Japan. And but there's a few things about this movie that the reasoning as to why it ranks at number 6. First off is going to be Famke Janssen's Jean Grey in this. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense in the Fox X-Men universe, but at the same time, nothing ever happened, and it shouldn't be there. He should not be grieving as much as he is, and it shouldn't be a focal point. So I think that's where my, at least part of my reasoning for ranking at number 6. But also another thing, when you have a Transformer-sized metal samurai with a sword the size of Texas as the big bad, I can't support that. You know, like, that's just a big missed opportunity for a really cool character, the Silver Samurai, and they just completely bastardized it and turned him into a Transformer.
He was a Gundam. He was not a Transformer.
Sure.
He was way cooler than a Transformer.
I don't know, but all I know is it sucked out Wolverine's bone marrow. And apparently that's the source of his immortal whatever. And then you had Viper in there for no reason. But I did enjoy it. Even like the road in Japan where like a bunch of people just shoot arrows at him and he's just like right there. That was freaking sweet.
I was going to ask you, like, that kicks off the third act. And that is one of the coolest Wolverine scenes you ever see. That scene's been mimicked in Star Wars, right? When Ahsoka's going through the city to get to the Citadel to fight the lady with the spear, like, feel like it's just been done. And it's not based on the Wolverine, right? There's like old Kurosawa movies where this is the way that the hero moves towards, and that, you know, they're gonna die in the end and so on. But it just is such a cool trope that they installed in it. And that's where I don't see this movie as 6, because I feel like it pays so much homage in so many other places.
Honestly, I think I just did this just because I think everyone expects a certain movie to be at number 6 or at the bottom of the list. So, hey, this is our list, our show. Until you make your own show, don't complain about it.
My number 5 is the second best movie to have both Wolverine and Deadpool in it. With the best on-screen gambit that actually has some level of real Cajun accent, and, in my opinion, the better Sabretooth. with Lev Shriver.
I mean, is that even a debate? Tyler Mane's Sabretooth, besides looking kind of cool, other than that, he didn't have anything to work with.
I enjoyed this movie because, as you know, I love context and story and background. And you got to see the full Wolverine journey from peppy, young, bone clawed colonial Wolverine all the way through to current Canadian angry bullet in the head Wolverine. And it's a guilty pleasure watch for me. It's at number 5 because there are just other things that are cool, but this is one like pre Deadpool Wolverine. I watched back all the Wolverine movies, and this is one of the ones that I'm just like, I can't not watch this. It's so good. And when Ryan Reynolds actually has a mouth in this movie, it's pretty funny.
I want to chime in on this discussion because mine is also number 5, X-Men Origins Wolverine. So yeah, you hit it spot on. I thought, as cheesy as it was, I thought their little mission that they all went on together and their banter in the helicopter beforehand was sweet. Like that's exactly what it should be, you know? Like you got Deadpool, Merc with the mouth and just like talking shit about Sabretooth with fingernails of a bag lady or bone claws, you know? Like he is freaking hilarious. So I'm glad that he was in it and I thought his parts were cool until the movie shit the bed where they had swords, full-length swords come out of his arms. Doesn't make sense. How's he going to walk around just like this the entire time? Like, I don't know, man. You said guilty pleasure. This movie is absolutely a guilty pleasure for me. It is a so bad it's good type of movie. And I feel very similar to this movie as I do with X-Men The Last Stand. If you're looking for comic
Oh,
book accuracy, this movie doesn't have it. And the powers are not right either. Whoever directed this movie and whoever wrote this movie, I'm assuming they collaborated and none of them knew anything about the comics.
director was
And they
Gavin
also
Hood.
but
X
this
Men
movie was
Origins was laughable. Yeah,
this is
no,
laughable because the CGI awful. De-aged Patrick Stewart awful. It just didn't seem like oh Patrick Stewart looks like he's 71 instead of 72. Okay, cool. This is great. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. And then you got like, Cyclops in there, which I don't know, man. Like they just threw everyone in just to be like, "Oh, okay, let's make this happen." And then
yeah,
the White Queen was in it, but not really the White Queen. And so I don't know. And they're sisters. Her and Kayla Silverfox are sisters. No, doesn't work. Whatever. But
it
hey,
works because it doesn't work. That's why it's
yeah,
great,
Hugh Jackman's great in it, and
and
Liev
that's all
Schreiber's
I care
great.
about.
I will say, Taylor Kitsch's Gambit sucked. I
Uh,
looked at him and I
not
was just like, this is the dumbest freaking iteration of Gambit ever.
Nope,
So
nope. I
yeah,
do not think so. I think there's been a worse one, sir.
no, it was all good. That was good. This one was awful. And Taylor Kitsch, I actually like him as an actor, but as Gambit, that wasn't Gambit. That's all I'm gonna say about this movie, and that's my number 5. I should fuck this. It's number 6. This movie's number 6. Going on down the list, what is your number 4?
A better than Origins Wolverine movie that took place in Japan, that had Logan as the samurai, that showed us that he survived a nuclear weapon, that just got there with it for me. It's the way that they give Hugh Jackman his own Wolverine movie and set it in Japan, which from the comics, he spent time there. You get the whole thing. And I didn't mind the Silver Samurai. I loved the tie-in that the old man somehow had his own Gundam that was a samurai, that its sole purpose was to steal the power of the being that saved his life, but still kept alive. Like this guy, how long did this old man think about sucking out some Wolverine bone marrow and giving him the death that he so wanted?
And where did he come up with that theory, though?
I mean, it was obviously the Venom lady's idea, Viper's idea. She was the special doctor. Oh, doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that this movie was good. This movie was good. So I can't complain about it. Like I said, I just completely rework my rankings right now because Origins does suck pretty bad. But
I mean, this is
yeah,
this is just this is another one of those so bad it's good, and Hugh Jackman made it like just the quintessential Wolverine, and we're so fortunate that he just continued playing this character for almost 30 years.
and pretty much in the same shape as this movie as he turned out for
I
Deadpool and
mean,
Wolverine
that
too.
you'd think that this ab shot of Hugh Jackman is right out of Deadpool and Wolverine, oh, but it's not.
My number four is the original Deadpool. This movie was pretty freaking hilarious and it was great in the theater. Wonderful theater experience. Everyone was laughing throughout the entire movie. The credits, the after credits, in the middle of the movie, in the down parts of the movie, like everything was good. I love the fact that they brought in Colossus. Colossus in this movie, the best, the best Colossus ever in any type of media from the cartoon, which I love the cartoon Colossus, to the X-Men Colossus, which, whatever. Daniel Cudmore, hey, you're great, but just not my Colossus. This was awesome. Very,
Not
very
my
cool.
Colossus. Yeah, I can't argue with your four, except that it's too low. My three is
We are.
Deadpool Wolverine. Um, this movie came with such high expectations after such a drought of Marvel, and I think I just expected more from it. I came in wanting them to tie together some things and bring together some A-level MCU characters, and did not expect this to be the love letter to 20th Century Fox Marvel movies that it was. Does that make it bad? No. Does that make it the best? No. But it's still great. It's still funny. It still is over the top. But much like Deadpool 2, to me, some of the repeat or retread, or we've seen this in other Deadpool movies of these jokes, you're kind of going bigger, broader, badder, but is it thorough and all the way through? It was chewy in places for me. It was a little weak in some of the battle scenes. It just was not maximum effort, which means it's not the maximum Deadpool movie.
I don't disagree with that statement. I did rewatch some of these movies in prep for this episode, so I can understand that. But because this is such a spectacle, I cannot see how this is at number three.
Well, the spectacle only gets bigger. It must. It must. Number three for you, though.
My number three, Logan. Now, this might be controversial, and I know it is. The reasoning as to why this is number three is because I didn't want to see the end of Wolverine. It's pretty depressing. That movie is pretty depressing for like the person that you want to see the ass kicker Wolverine, which you do. But instead you get for a majority of the movie this old rundown dude, salty as shit. I like the movie. The movie's great. I might even say that it is near perfect from a movie perspective, but it's not perfect for me in a comic book movie perspective. And there's two different things, right? I'll definitely go to bat and say I will look at comic book movies different than I will regular movies because it's a different type of art. I think it's fair enough to say that just like you can't compare a Disney animated film to The Godfather, right? Like that's just not fair comparisons. So to say that there's certain plot holes or certain things that are not working and for one movie and it works for another is valid because some movies don't call for that stuff. What I wanted out of Logan was to see him as like how many times have we seen him as the reluctant hero? Like every freaking movie, right? Every freaking movie. This cranks it up to 11. And so that's where I'm just like, that's kind of a bummer. And I did think that the X-24 was kind of like lame. It was cool to see him fight his younger self. Is that really what you want to see? Or do you want to see him face off against another baddie? I think I rather would have seen that. But I love the fact that you've got X-23 in there, Laura as, just this kid that is just full of piss and vinegar, and it pretty much just like Logan, except miniature sized. I love their chemistry. I love their back and forth on everything. And Patrick Stewart, what a phenomenal performance from him. I thought that was really great. But yeah, just kind of I'm a big fan of bummer endings and bummer movies, but I didn't want a bummer movie out of one of my favorite superheroes. So that's why it's at number 3. Still a fantastic movie though.
Still a fantastic movie for sure. And speaking of fantastic movies, number two for me is the OG Deadpool. Much to your point, a spectacle in the theater, something that I saw, I think, on opening day. And this is one of those movies that was just fun to be in a theater for. I don't think any of the rest on my list fell into that category. Like Deadpool and Wolverine, it was great. The audience just didn't engage with it. I was finally in a full theater, and the audience was nowhere close to engaging with it as much as they did with this movie. And the anticipation and the expectation that Ryan Reynolds killed this was absolutely there. And this movie delivered at every point. There wasn't a soft part of it. I think this movie had an impact that was felt across the comic book movie world. As you got like Taika making Thor a little funnier after Deadpool came out. You got just more comedy laced into comic movie. And that works for me. That really gave it that. It plowed through in a way that it broke through some barriers for me. So that's
I
why it's
mean,
so high on my list. Not just the quality of the movie, but the overall impact of the film as well.
it really pegged it, didn't it? It just totally pegged
Oh,
it. So
it pegged it hard, man.
my number 2 is Deadpool number 2. I This is the most recent watch that I've had for today of all the movies, and I forgot how much I really like this movie. I remember liking it a lot, but I forgot all the intricacies and also subtleties throughout this movie that was just like, oh, this freaking is fantastic. The whole story with Cable I thought was great. Brolin did a fantastic job, but this was almost like an Avengers type of movie for Fox because they brought in so many different people. You had Colossus back again. You had Cable. You brought Shatterstar in. Negasonic Teenage Warhead was in from the previous movie as well. But so many people, and they toyed with the whole X-Force team thing, and Domino. Zazie Beetz as Domino. Just a great performance, and I wish he was still back in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. I hope maybe one day she'll come back into the MCU as Domino. I thought that was just a great performance by her, and I'd love to see her again. But there's so many great bit characters. You got Terry Crews as Bedlam. Brad Pitt is the Vanisher. Now, how freaking funny was it in the theater when you see Brad Pitt flash on the screen for 2 seconds and then he's dead? And it wasn't all about his girlfriend. So just for the clarity of it, like yes, she was the reason, like he wanted to die. But he also wanted to die because Logan died. So that was another thing that was kind of playful. But it was a family movie. Deadpool says it at the beginning of the movie. It's a family movie. The action, great. Awesome direction from David Leitch from John Wick fame and also Atomic Blonde. Awesome action. That was something that I missed in a few of the other movies, especially in almost all the Wolverine movies, except for the Wolverine. But yeah, it's so cool to be able to see this movie again, and I urge you and the listeners to rewatch this because after watching Deadpool and Wolverine, I think it really amplifies how you view the other movies.
It adjusted my expectations for Wolverine and Deadpool because I should have known that it should have been more like this and less like my number one. The most impactful and an emotional comic book movie ever. Setting the bar, the godfather of comic book movies, in my opinion, like took something that was a joke and made it like a real, actual quality drama and gave more than a two-dimensional fighting novelty to characters with depth, with feeling, and made you feel something about a character. I mean, I think this is the only comic book movie that's ever like made you roll a tear at the end. It just in any movie, when he dies at the end and she turns the cross to an X, like the ending of this movie is so poignant. Like it doesn't get much better, right? And then after this movie, they went ahead and killed Robert Downey Jr. to the same level of effect in Endgame. But this was the movie that told us that comic book movies could be great movies and could be cinematic and could have emotion and feeling, and it didn't all have to be just fun and games. Like they tried to do that with Last Stand and, oh, I've got to kill Gene, but this was so much more. The reluctant hero, the Patrick Stewart in this movie too, so great. Like their chemistry between the two of them. Oh, this movie is as good as it gets from a comic book movie perspective. On my list of top 5 best all-time comic book movies for sure, and in my top 10 movies of all time, in some cases, but just such a great movie, and there's no way this shouldn't be number one.
So I agree with your statement. The big thing for me is the reason why it doesn't rank at number one is because I don't view this as a comic book movie, and I mean that in the best possible way. You know, it's just something that is more of a serious tone. Yes, it's based off of a comic book character and some of the stories, but at the same time, it doesn't force feed some of that stuff in to make it like a comic book movie. Most comic book movies have to have some type of comic book reference, comic book shot, something like that to make it a little bit more campy, right? So
I mean,
it's
they
almost
put
like a
actual
little,
comic books in this. Like
yeah,
they
they
have
did.
comic books.
Yeah. But it's that's why I don't consider it number one as and I don't mean for it to be like that in a bad way. It's just it's a disrespect to the movie itself to where it's like, oh, yeah, that's a pretty good comic book movie. Like, no, it's just a really good movie.
I mean, it's a
So
disrespect for
that's
you not to have it at number one, it sounds like.
not on this not on my comic book movie list. So that's the reasoning as to why. My number one, call it the recency factor, call it the combination of two worlds of Fox and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or just call it freaking fun. My number one is Deadpool and Wolverine for obvious reasons. This is a spectacle. It garners so much interest. It garners so many eyeballs just kind of looking at it and everything, but also it garners positive reviews, negative reviews, meh reviews, and that's okay. This is just sheer, complete fun entertainment for me. And the difference between this and Logan and some of the other movies for me is the rewatchability. I could probably rewatch this movie all the time. Logan, even though from my rating perspective, I can do it all day, I can't watch that more than like once a year, maybe once every 2 years, because it cheapens it if you do watch it over and over again. The sensitive parts to where it's like you may shed a tear, that goes away. I'm the same way for like Guardians 3 and Avengers Endgame. Like I purposely don't watch those movies as often as I would like to because I want to still feel that anxiousness, that excitement, that dread, that fear when I watch the movies. Same thing that I do for like horror movies because you kind of already know the plot and the spoilers of stuff and who the killer is. Here, I know everything that happens, but I can still watch it over and over again because there's so many other things to appreciate throughout the movie. Whether it is the witty banter, whether it's the on-screen chemistry, whether it's the multiple cameos that are in this movie, the Easter eggs. I mean, that is if this was like a video game, I would definitely be at 80 plus hours for this. So yeah, that is my number one.
Yeah,
Fun little list though, right?
it's a
Between
fun. The good thing is all these movies are watchable. All these things are things that I've seen recently and continue to rewatch or come back to. And regardless of where we think they sit, as long as you're watching them, it means you're enjoying them.
and if you continue to watch them, you're just supporting comic book movies. And we all want to see them. Will we have the same caliber of movies from the MCU? I don't know. It's kind of hard to keep that bar at such a high level. It's got to drop sometime. Or will James Gunn bring DC in like
Eh,
into the stratosphere? I don't know. Maybe it's possible. He did with the Guardians.
yeah, we always think that DC is going to do something, and then all they do is shit the bed. So
I
we'll
mean, they
see.
should. They should do something because they've got two of the most popular comic book characters of all time with Batman and Superman. But man, Marvel has worked some magic, and I'll continue to watch that magic, even though I kind of know how the tricks are done.
Mhm. He understands the sleight of hand. He still pays his money, and I love it.
But I think that wraps it up for this episode. We got a short and sweet one. Hopefully you enjoyed our list. But most importantly, what's your list? Until next time, I'm Dan the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review and hit us up on our socials. I Can Do This All Day podcast across the board: X, Insta, YouTube, maybe even Facebook. Who knows? But let us know your list. Let us know your thoughts, and tell Dan that Logan's number one.
Not on my list. We'll see you next time, everyone.